Oh, yeah. Freak out. Yeah, I'm looking right into the video scope, And this is Macho Man, #1 Macho Man impersonator, past, present, future, yeah. And I'm here to tell you, you are watching 49er Minded with Bashar. Yeah, the cream of the crop. Dig it?
49er Mind is it's not just a thought process, but a way of life. 49er Mind. 49er Mind. Can't shake it. It's 49er Mind that I got. It's 49er Shine that I got. My psyche's on another Frisco Super Bowl. Don't sit slow, cause here we go with a super show. A red and gold session. I thought I read a gold obsession with some well-controlled expressions. Let's talk about that win that we got. Who should have been in the spot? That's how it's been in the spot. Let's roll that back, all that crack, all that straight fumble sack. Or just dial it on up if you wanna talk smack. It don't matter what the storyline, as long as the story aligns with a 49er mind. 49er minded. It's not just a thought process, 49er minded, but a way of life. The Shark. 49er minded. Way of life. 49er minded.
What is up, everybody? We are here. We're live. Welcome to another edition of 49er Minded, where we get into the minds of 49er fans. I have a very special guest who I've been talking to for a while now, but we never actually got to get going with the show, but we finally did it. I just saw your name pop up somewhere on my feed on Twitter today. I hit you up in the DMs. I was like, yo, let's see if we could get a show going today. And you were like, up for the challenge. We got Gammon Brown. How you doing, bro?
It goes down in the DMs, and I'm here and ready to play the game. Let's get it going.
Let's get it going. Let's say what's up to some peeps in the chat who are patiently waiting. We had to delay just a little bit, not too much. What up, Jimmy? Jimmy was here really, really early. Red Jet Shell is always in the house. Good evening, Bashar. She says, thank you. 49ers throwbacks up in the house. We got Fazil. He's here. And what up, 49ers Chanel? Good to see you, bro. Keeping the faith. What up? Shout out to my boy JD Hawkater. Says, got to update the intro video. I know, dude, trust me, the video was running. And I was like, well, see, I paid somebody to do that intro, but I might have to just throw in some parody clips with an edit for that version of the video and see how it looks and play with it, and maybe it'll come out good. So I'll definitely trust me. I definitely had that in mind. But yeah, thank you for everybody that showed up early. We appreciate you guys. With tomorrow, the 49ers do play the Las Vegas Raiders. Papa Jay's in the house. I always call him Papa John's. He's always on the Niner chat, so shout out to him. So Red Jet says she's got me for updates if needed. Okay, things are going to be happening on the fly. A lot of moves are going to be made in the NFL. We know that within the next few hours, so we'll see what's going on. We got Selmy Mara in the house. So what's up, all? Let's introduce Gammon, because we got Gammon up in here. I believe I've seen you calling on Eric Crocker's show numerous times. I've seen you on Terror Dome. I believe you've been on Grant Cohn. I've seen you all over the place. The first time I ever saw you on the Locker Room Rant with my boy John V. Shout out to the Vornado over in the Locker Room Rant. And just let everybody know who you are, a little about yourself. And after that, just tell them how you became a 49er fan. How did it all start?
Yeah, so I guess the most important thing is that my name is Gammon Brown. I'm a Scorpio. That's very important. So the stingers go hiss, unless anyone wants to know. But also too, way I really became a 49ers fan was my dad. He worked with a lot of broadcasters. So if anybody was watching any San Francisco Giants games or 49ers games back in the late 80s, early 90s, my dad was part of a lot of the satellite uplink companies that would make sure that those games got produced and scheduled. So I was usually out there with my dad, just out there outside of Candlestick. And if you ever had any weird times where all of a sudden, there was some static or it kind of blacked out, is because yours truly, was jumping over the cables for the reception. And I did get a pop whenever that did happen, because the producers weren't very happy about that. But yeah, I became really just a fan because I was loyal to the soil. I was there kind of growing up. My dad actually doesn't like sports, but I would just watch it on these tiny little, if you can remember those little 80s monitors, but I was watching all the games. I'd hear the crowd erupt, and I was just kind of right there. And I just thought, what a what a neat experience to kind of hear that Coliseum just getting loud like that. Nothing rumbled quite like Candlestick. So a lot of memories, a lot of memories.
So these are more so for Candlestick Park San Francisco Giants games, not necessarily the Niner games, right?
Correct, but yeah, and then everything just kind of bled in through that, because you just start playing, you're just your T-ball and everything else, and then you just start really just identifying and really sowing your seeds with that San Francisco crowd, especially when you're there enough. And yeah, it's just contagious. Everything was always about winning. Will the Thrill Clark to Thompson at third base, Jerry Rice, Steve Young. I mean, the list goes on and on. But yeah, it was really hard not to. Why would you want to rock any other type of gear besides Niners gear and San Francisco Giants gear? Oh, you cut out.
My bad, I'm muted. You were single-handedly responsible for jacking up some broadcasts for San Francisco Giants games, per se. So that is pretty funny.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, the first ever Giants game that I ever went to, actually, it was against Nolan Ryan when he played for the Astros, and they had this. I can't remember how their colors or their uniform looked, but it looks completely different than right now. And there was some college kids streaking across the field holding up a banner, and I just remember I just looked up at my dad, and my dad just had a 1,000-yard stare, and I just kind of just nodded, and we just kind of just let it all kind of go through. But I was just like, yeah, this is the Bay Area right here as such a young man. Matt Williams.
Do you have any memories of the first 49er game you attended? I'm assuming you have been to Candlestick for an actual 49er game, right?
Yeah, a lot of it actually, I only got to attend it just from the outside. So anybody who's been tailgating, I just never really was too lucky enough to attend like the physical games. I just was just always there and just hear the roar of the crowd outside in the parking lot. It wasn't until I got older, and then I had the chance to actually go to an actual game. I always actually wanted to go to a Pro Bowl game, especially when a lot of the 49ers was Steve Young and all them and Deion Sanders. And they were, we had all these Pro Bowlers in Hawaii, and I always wanted to go. I could never go. My wife actually ended up taking me to one. And then not too long ago, lucky enough, I got to take my son to a preseason game. So again, my dad just wasn't really big into sports, but when you're a kid and you hear all the yelling and the commotion, kind of gets the blood pumping, gets the juices going. So yeah, I mean, no fault of my own. You don't make enough money to go attend a 49ers game, mowing lawns, cutting grass, and washing cars. So, but now that I'm an adult, I can do what I want.
There you go. So we'll probably see you at a future game, or maybe I'll run into you at a future game for all I know. Shout out again. I don't know who this guy is, but shout out to you, bro. Guapo. Interesting name there for those of you that know some Spanish. Just make sure to like, subscribe, and share. Appreciate it. Just hey, spread the word if you're on social media. Just drop it on Twitter or X, as they say, or Facebook. So let them know. And Keeping the Faith, who's JD Hawkhater, you guys may remember, says, "What's up to Fazil?" He says, "I hope you're good. This life has been crazy, but I still keep up with everything on YouTube, and I may bring the show back one day. Or might bring the show back one day if I can." So, that's very interesting. It's good to hear. A lot of people ask me about JD Hawkhater through the years, where he's been and what happened to him. And there was even some crazy, stupid rumor on somebody's YouTube channel that he passed away. And I saw that on some video, and I literally typed away to whoever said so. And I was like, no, he's live and kicking. He's doing well. So
he just pulled a Jon Snow, died and then resurrected, and he's back here to fight the
Machiavelli or something, or Tupac. I don't know. Yeah, the legend of JD still lives. Chris Schultz is in the chat. Shout out to Chris Schultz all the way up in Ohio. Big 49er faithful. We got Steve-O in the house. Is Bang Bang. Who else? Well, Kenny 49ers. What's up, Kenny? I'd like to subscribe. Him and I are going to collab pretty soon one of these days. It's in the works. California Man 4000 says it's been 30 years since the 49ers won a Super Bowl. Still not going to be happy until the Niners get their Super Bowl ring. I don't know how many of those, if you witnessed any of those victories. I'm assuming maybe you didn't. Maybe you might be one of the younger guys. I know it's the younger crowd's really, really mad that they never got to see their team win a Super Bowl. Hey, I do see it happening somewhere down in the future. I'm not going to predict when and where, but I just think with Purdy at quarterback, things are looking good. Good job. Okay. JD, that's funny. That's hilarious. Yeah, so we got an idea how you became a Niner fan. Did you ever be any 49er players at all? You have any experiences being any players or?
No, I didn't. I just really wasn't interested into meeting players really until gosh, I don't know, until maybe 97, 98, maybe when I was in middle school. I really wanted to meet guys like Charles Barkley, Dennis Rodman, Chris Webber, some of your prototypical kind of power forwards back then. Um, I just I was too involved and just too busy actually trying to craft my own game and wanted to be a baller and a player myself. So when I hear kind of statements coming from Anthony Edwards where he just doesn't think that the 1992 Dream Team was very skilled, I understand why he said that, because he said he didn't really pay attention or watch them, but probably
I
not.
don't think he was alive back then when that team was.
Yeah, and
And much respect to him as a player. He's tearing it up. I get it, but yeah.
Phenomenal. Yeah, but you're not paying attention. It was really hard for me to sit down and watch sports when I'd watch a couple minutes and I was like, I got to get outside. I got to play. I got to duplicate what I'm seeing Magic Johnson doing or anybody else. It was tough. I'd be at the elementary school going to the library. Whenever they sent us to the library, instead of checking out a book, I'd go get the Sports Illustrated for Kids and hoping that there was still that stack of 9 cards that you could still, hopefully nobody else took them out of there. And I could get that that stack of cards from that Sports Illustrated,
Yeah.
but it was tough for me there.
Yeah, I saw Weber play once at Warriors, Open Warriors public practice, but I never got to see him play live in a game. But I went to plenty of Warriors games way back in the day. And I met the whole Run TMC team because I was a volunteer for the Warriors back then, and I went to more Warrior games way back when they were garbage than during the Curry era. Actually, JD says he met Weber and Kevin Garnett back in the day. That's cool. I seen Garnett play in person back when he was on the Brooklyn Nets actually. But yeah, we transitioned a little bit to basketball. Really quick, just quick question about basketball. Then we'll jump into the Niners because everybody's thirsty for this Niner talk, and we've got a game tomorrow. Who's your NBA team? I wasn't sure who your NBA team was. I was curious.
Oh, Sacramento Kings.
Okay, Sac Kings. Okay, interesting.
Yeah, I love being miserable for a good third of the season. So third of the
You
year.
did mention Weber. I get you. The Weber days were the fun times for the Kings fans, and had the refs not played their part, maybe they would have won a ring with Weber and company. We'll never know, unfortunately. But yeah, those are good times. And I live in the Sacramento area. There's still a lot of diehard Kings fans. So shout out to all the diehard Kings fans. I was fortunate to meet Doug Christie a few years back, 3 or 4 years ago. I had some summer what's it called? They had a summer league tournament at the Golden One Center. So that was cool. But yes, the 49ers are playing the Las Vegas Raiders tomorrow in Las Vegas at Allegiant Stadium. Some people make jokes and say it looks like a toilet bowl, but it is actually a pretty nice stadium. And some Niner fans bash the way Levi Stadium looks, but hey, it's our stadium at the end of the day, and I'm okay with it. But is there anything you're looking forward to into tomorrow's preseason game? Anything right off the bat?
Yes, injuries, none.
Okay, exactly.
That's it. It's surprising. As soon as they moved out of the Bay Area, we seem to be invested in them during the offseason a little bit more. So it seems like as soon as they left Oakland, we've been more amicable to playing them. I find that kind of hilarious. I guess
it's weird.
Las Vegas crowd's a little bit different than the Oakland crowd. But if I'm going to be honest, it's injuries. I don't like the way the 2020 season started out for us, and which was just injury riddled. MetLife, we don't like turf. Thank goodness that the first game's not going to be in MetLife Stadium.
Or Met Death Stadium. I think somebody else had a funny name for it, but I'll call it Met Death for now.
Yeah, but I'm going to be honest with you, Bashar. If because that wasn't a very good couple weeks in the season when we played the Jets that year, and that's when we just had the slew of injuries. If we have a slew of injuries leading up to the game, we have a slew of injuries during that game. it's going to really bring up a lot of connotations of that 2020 season. I know it's not the most positive thing, but that's going to be the first place where my mind goes. And us being one of the oldest teams, that's probably where a lot of, stay off ESPN that day is all I'm going to say. Stay off of ESPN. But
yeah, I'm not trying to focus too much on the injuries, but I'll say this: like the first preseason game we had this season, I walked away from it. I was like, oh, cool, no injuries. And then literally like 3 or 4 days later, Kalia Davis is out for the season. I was like, what? That was one of like the obscure younger D linemen that I really had some hopes for. So not that I had extremely high hopes for the guy, but he did look pretty good in that first preseason game. And I was just like, well, I didn't see the guy get hurt during the game. And those are the worst injuries, I think, when like they announce an injury like 3 or 4 days later, and then you don't even see the guy get hurt during the game. You see him play the whole game, and then they say he's out for the season. Like, really, dude? But he's going to be back mid-season, which does suck, but at least we'll have him for some portion of the season, hopefully.
Well, so luckily enough, my son and I, we got amazing tickets to go see the Titans and 49ers game. So the first preseason game, because I'm stationed over here next to Fort Campbell, which happens to reside on the Kentucky and Tennessee border. So we got to go see the Tennessee Titans and 49ers play in the first preseason game. And what was interesting was I did get to see a slew of the injuries happen. And I didn't get to see how it was live, but that's interesting there when you're actually there at the stadium, not watching it live. While the cameras are panning away, you can kind of see what the players, the coaching staff, everybody else is kind of working through. I always thought it was interesting when David Lombardi, he was kind of roasting or grilling Bell on he kind of called it, I don't want to put words in his mouth because somebody's going to come after me, but screw it. Was basically saying like Bell just either didn't have it because of how small-ish he is or how light he is to go after bigger, block bigger type of defensive backs or this and the other. But what I saw was that he got injured pretty bad on one of those plays, and then he was still out there trying to block. It's just that he physically wasn't able to. And I found it ironic that the very next week he blocked somebody so bad after Lombardi's comments. Almost did like a Juwan Jennings and took that guy to the coolers. So a lot of our guys were kind of banged up. They're pressing really hard. You don't have the 4 games to really show your stuff like in years past, right? Usually have like 4 preseason games to show your stuff, to show why you're on a team. If not the 49ers team, at least for another team. Now you've got 60 minutes of film that's removed. So these guys are going to go a little extra hard. They're going to press a little bit harder. And also, too, they've reduced the hours of practice and everything else. So your shots are very, very limited. You just don't have the time to put into it and get those reps in as you normally like to at all.
Yes, sir. We got Low the Truth 81 in the chat. This is what's good, Bash. Good to see you, bro. Always good to have you around. Yeah, I mean, these injuries and all this other stuff in preseason, hopefully it doesn't happen. And then you mentioned Ronnie Bell. I didn't know that he was getting grilled in the first preseason game for not blocking, but he did look really nice. I think it was only one play that stood out where he was blocking somebody towards the sidelines, which is nice. But I will say this, me and a lot of other 49er fans will probably agree with this, that Ronnie Bell has not made so much of a case of fighting it out to possibly stick around on this roster. And it's not that I don't think he's been doing terrible, but I mean, when you see guys like Tay Martin, for example, in preseason almost do a better job than he's doing, or obviously you have Jacob Cowing in the mix. Everybody's talking about Jacob Cowing. I'm not going to talk about it too much, but he's looked pretty good so far. You want to elaborate on him? Obviously, they're going to keep Ricky Pearsall on the roster. He's their first rounder. Chris Conley's a veteran who I definitely see sticking around. I don't see him going anywhere. If I had to pick between Ronnie Bell and Conley, I'm literally picking Chris Conley all day. I really am. Robbie Chosen Anderson is in the mix. I'm not sure why he has that Chosen name, but I don't know. I don't know if he's going to stick around and try to. I don't think he'll make the roster, but especially if we sign Ayuk, I mean, it's really, really going to be hard to make this team as a wide receiver. And if we do sign Ayuk and Pearsall's going to be available week 1 or early in the season, I mean, This potentially could be the deepest 49er wide receiving core that I've seen in the past like 20 years or so. A lot of people are negative about this Ricky Pearsall thing. I'm still holding out hope for him. They were saying that he was going to possibly practice this week. His shoulder, he said his shoulder wasn't feeling right this week, so therefore they held off on it. Dr. Nirav Pandya spoke on that. He said that with injuries, shoulder injuries like that, you're better off sitting it out, because if you were to re-injure it, it'll set you back even more. So I do get that part where they didn't practice him this week, even though I really, really wanted to see him out there. But they got to get this Ayuk deal done, and I just, I really see I have high hopes for this wide receiver core in general.
I have high hopes for this wide receiver core too. What's interesting is when you look at a team like the Eagles, right? There's a chance that they may be walking into the season with only 4 wide receivers initially, right? And then when you look at this 49ers team with how many injuries there are there, our roster balance may be wildly different from other teams, especially the way that things are going with this special teams play that have been going on. I also do want to give a shout out to the punter, not Mitch Wishnowsky, but the other punter that's been punting. I saw him live, and on TV, the only punts that the general public got to see were the ones in game. But during practice, every single punt, it was exactly within a yard or two. And I'm not talking about a yard within the left or right or up down. I mean, you take a diameter yard, and he was every single time was putting that ball in the same spot 4 out of 5 times. Unbelievable. That guy deserves a job somewhere. It's not going to be on the 49ers. But again, you have these guys who do absolutely incredible, and they're not going to make the team. That's going to be a guy who makes the team somewhere else. I'm of the mindset when it comes down to Bell that I think that he's going to make the 49ers team. However, I know that every single other big-time person who's looking at the 49ers, right, your Lombardis, your Grant Cohns, everybody else, they're saying that he's not going to make the team. So I feel like they have a little bit more insider information on that. My gut feeling is that this team is going to, unlike the Eagles, only having 4 wide receivers going in there, they're going to have 6, probably 5, but possibly 6, just because of the injuries. Again, starting out the season, maybe 6. And I think that he's going to make it because, again, this team is a pass-first team or a run-first team. And let's be honest, no block, no rock. If you don't block, you're not getting out there. And the other thing, too, is if Brandon Ayuk isn't there week 1, okay, this Jets team is the number 1 defense in the NFL. That's hard for 49ers to come to grips with because we're so used to, ever since Patrick Willis, and we're so used to saying we're the number 1 defense. Not this year. So we're gonna have to, but they're the number 1, I think, passing defense. And they have Quentin Williams in the middle. So we're gonna really need to be able to run block. And I love some of those other guys and their ability to catch the ball, but they're supposed to be catching that over guys who are not going to make the NFL, right? These guys are catching the football, running routes against people who are going to go back and work at Kroger's, right? Or Target or somewhere else, bagging groceries. And that's not a slight at them, but it's just we have to keep it in perspective. You should be doing well against them, but your number 1 thing that you need to be able to do is you need to be able to block. We have to think about why Ayuk, why Dante Pettis, why some of these other guys got put into the doghouse, and we lose sight of that. Because otherwise Sheffield, when he was doing great, should have just been an explosive player. But when you're going up against number 1s for 40 or 50 snaps, that's not going to work. But if you can outwork them through blocking, then you've got a chance. You've got to have that duality in your game with this offense. So I'm going to cut against the grain. I'm going to be 100% wrong. Lombardi, Cone, they're all going to be right against me, but I'm going to say Bell makes it just because on tape he's a savage baller and a blocker. Again, I said this when Juwan Jennings was not doing well catching the ball a couple preseasons ago, but I was just like, yeah, but no block, no rock. If you don't block on this team, you don't run block, you're not making this team. So I think sometimes we get too caught up in the fact of people making these catches over 7th, 8th, 9th string guys, and we don't realize that the guys who are blocking on 1st, 2nd, 3rd string guys. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. But again, fully recognize I'm in the 10% minority with that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I take it the easy route because I definitely don't see Bell making this team. I mean, it's if we assuming this Ayuk thing gets done, and it's literally going to be 6 wide receivers with Pearsall and Cowing on the roster, and I'd say Conley's the guy after him. So basically, you got Jennings, Debo, Ayuk, Pearsall, Cowing, and Conley. Those are the 6. I doubt they'd ever keep 7 wide receivers, and I don't know what wide receiver would be on the practice squad. But somebody mentioned Danny Gray in the chat. Look, I pushed for Danny Gray. If you anybody ever saw my live draft coverage when I was on Barry Baller's channel and his live draft coverage, I was on there with them, and I screamed and I was dropping Danny Gray's name like for about 4 rounds leading up to the time we picked him, saying that we should get him. And once we did get him, I was pumped up and I was excited. But I'll be honest, man, it's been a major disappointment. I pushed for him a lot, but this year I've definitely I mean, the best thing I saw him do this preseason was what last week he that pass came to him and he dropped it, and then the other guys were about to intercept it and he caught it again. I was like, okay, cool, heads up play, but it just does not seem like he can make the team. And what I've been hearing coming out of camp is that despite the fact that the guy runs a 4.340, he's got good size, he cannot separate for whatever reason. I guess he doesn't know how to run routes. So yeah, and we got some talent in the mix that's just better, and that's just how the cookie crumbles. Let me say shout out to Terradome. Actually, the one time I did stream with you, we were both on Terradome's channel. So shout out to Terradome. That's 49 minded and Gavin in the Heezy, America's Most Wanted Gangster Party. All right, I don't know about the gangster part, but
can you go up 2 comments above that to Papa J's comment?
Papa John's. What is he saying?
So he said, Gammon, I would not risk giving up Conley, Cowling, or Pearsall for Bell. Listen, you and I can agree all day, and I feel like I'm going to make a Terradome kind of comment, but beauty is in the eyes of the holder. And again, what we all see is evident to us, but I'd ask you this, Papa J. Last year, when you're seeing people who are on the bubble who could have made the team, not made the team, were there any snubs or people that you just downright didn't agree with and you saw them get picked up by other teams and make the team? Or the year before that? I'm so sorry, Papa J, but this team makes frustrating decisions. But sometimes we have to look at it not through our lens and how we see or view the game, but how they see the game. And they're asking these guys to do certain things. And it might just be that Bell and the upticks that he does and things that he does, they may score the running game and everything else way differently than the way that we are. But I agree with you. I have no dog in the fight. It's just that I'm seeing things not to be objectively different, so that way I can get my name out there or anything like that. It's just that I'm looking at it instead of with my heart. I'm looking at it like, what is the wide receiver coach being instructed to do for Kyle Shanahan? So, Cowing, Purcell aren't getting cut. Yeah, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Probably. But yeah, I mean, again, it's just my perception. If Bell stays here, and again, really shouldn't have any more than 5 wide receivers on the roster. I'm acting in the scenario that because of our injuries, guys are still banged up, right? And heaven forbid, BA isn't re-signed. Now we've got 6 wide receivers. I see him kind of filling in that role. So look at it from that kind of lens. And then, hey, as soon as guys start coming back, start getting healthy, it's easier to cut a Bell than it is some other guys in order to make room for other people on your roster and then try to move them back to your practice roster. Again, I'm trying to look at it through that lens. So
I think we're going to move off from this Ronnie Bell guy, but I'll say this. that that song "Ring My Bells" like been running through my head for the past 10 minutes. So we definitely need to move on to something else. Well, we'll see how it shapes out with the wide receivers, and later we can joke and laugh about it during the season, see who sticks around and who makes it, and who's making an impact for us and who isn't. David McNider's in the house. Says, "What's cracking, Bashar and Gammon? Let's effing go Niners. Good to see you." If I missed anybody, I don't know, man. I'd like to shout out everybody, show everybody some love. I know you mentioned the punter, Presley, is I believe Presley, don't call me Percy Harvin. I believe he's like 250 pounds. He's a pretty big, hefty dude. And I was like, how's up now? I know Wish had a really nice season last year, but I was just surprised that we picked up Presley in relief. And like, how is a punter this good, like sticking around, not signed? Like, I don't know how he was even available. I don't want to talk about punters too much, but it's just interesting that you saw him. And then that's pretty cool. He's been looking pretty good so far. It just sucks that we're gonna have a lot of players that are really, really talented on this roster. As I have the depth chart pulled up while I'm looking at just a lot of talent that are just guys are unfortunately going to get cut.
He looked sensational. He didn't just look good. He looked sensational. It made me start thinking like, man, we could really save some money if we're not re-signing Wishnowsky and we pick up this guy. Where I saw a big difference is, and this is why I like our Aussie kind of rugby player, is that we kind of failed. We had a busted coverage, and that's where Wishnowsky really kind of shines. Maybe he doesn't get the cleanest hit, maybe he gets a flag thrown, but he really knows how to plant his cleats in the grass and then kind of come up with that tackle. Especially
former rugby player, right?
Right. Yeah. So he really knows how to square up and then not let somebody pass him. Whereas I didn't feel the same way with this guy, but he still really knew how to deliver a good, accurate football to where your special teams coverage team really knew where to go with the ball. Like if he was able to go like, hey guys, this is where it's going. They knew where they needed to really drill in and get towards the football for sure. And I noticed that it started the punt returner really had to start making some corrections because it kind of threw him off the first couple times. He's like, okay, I've got to get kind of I can't take this guy for granted. And so he had to play different zones within the field for that for sure. So
yeah. So we're going to jump into defensive backs. Somebody mentioned defensive backs in the chat. Chris Schultz said our secondary stacked. Sure likes typing in caps, which is just fine. Nothing wrong with that. He's a big Florida State / 49ers fan, and he was hyped up when Renardo Green did get drafted by the 49ers. Yes. A lot of people complain that we never draft DBs with any upside, and I think we did this time. And hey, Malik Mustafa, in many mock drafts I did, definitely showed up as being one of the better safeties, and lo and behold, we drafted him. I believe it was the 4th round. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think we had 3 fourth round picks. And Malik Mustafa is looking like freaking the way Jerry Brown looked last year. Maybe he looks a little better. I don't know. We do have Hufanga coming back in the mix. I see some very good things for this DB group in general, especially when it comes to safety. But I mean, we got Diamador Lenore, who's on the cups of having a Pro Bowl / All-Pro season. Charvarius Ward, we all know who he is. Isaac Yadam and Rock Yassin are, Isaac Yadam's a pretty damn good player, and now Renardo Green in the mix. Now you got Rock Yassin, and yeah, the DB room is looking really, really nice. And this, like I said, this could be our strongest I mentioned the wide receivers if we have everybody signed and ready, and then this secondary could be the strongest secondary group we've had in a long, long time too. What do you think?
Yeah, and boy, we're gonna need it. What I've really found interesting with Malik Mustafa is just you can tell, and this was a big difference, right? When Brock Purdy's first year when he was playing, and then we're talking about Jimmy Garoppolo, and then our other first round quarterback who shall not be named, who's on the Cowboys, right? You could you could find it really interesting just in the way that Kyle Shanahan was calling plays for the quarterbacks, right? What I found really interesting with Malik Mustafa was that when he made a tackle, and if it was a short distance kind of tackle, and if the other team was, quote unquote, the refs kind of gave it to the offense for being the aggressors for the first down, during this preseason, there's been so much faith displayed by Kyle Shanahan that he's been throwing the challenge flag during preseason for Malik Mustafa. And then those calls have been overturned because he's been standing those guys up right there, short and distance, and then delivering those big hits. and getting that there. Now, I don't know about the coverage, but that was something that I kind of keyed into when I was watching the games. I was like, that is interesting because he doesn't have the best angles. Those angles were, and because I was sitting on the same side of the field that Kyle Shanahan was, there's no way that he could actually see that. And when you're the visitor, they'll show a little bit of it, but then if it's favoring the visiting team, they all of a sudden they cut that replay short, so that way the coaching staff and everything like that, the 49ers can't actually see it. And Kyle Shanahan was like, he's like, I'm going to challenge that play. I believe in my guy that he stopped it with inches to go, and it really did happen. So I don't know about his coverage. I think that's the thing I'm scared or most nervous about. We don't have that freaky guy who can run a 4.2, 4.3, who's 6'3", who can just cover all this distance. Not even like a 5'9" Earl Thomas. Like, I can cover, 40 square yards all around me. Like, we don't have that. But what I do like with Malik Mustafa is I think if he was there starting for us as a safety against Green Bay last year, I don't think that there's as much running back activity that was going on or missed tackles. I think he kind of stands him up. But again, there's a lot of misdirection. You have to first think about when he's playing against Aaron Rodgers. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to be able to dictate where he goes more than he's going to be able to dictate or tell Aaron Rodgers where the play is going to go. So he's not going to have that kind of gamemanship, but you love 100% what you see. And what I love about this secondary is that these guys all have a role, and you're really starting to see, because I feel like we have two defensive coordinators, you're starting to really kind of see the niches that these guys are carving out for them. And as long as they get the right guys out on the field, I think they're really going to be successful this year for the secondary. So I'm excited for it. We just don't have a lot of room for error, or against teams like Miami that could really stretch us out are my biggest concerns.
I understand. Yeah. I mean, as far as back to Renardo Green goes, I was hearing some good things about him in camp this week when he was going up against Jacob Cowing. Jacob Cowing was having success, but not when he was going up against Renardo Green as of late. So I believe that happened today in practice. And from what I hear, Isaac Yiadom is working back from an ankle injury, so we may not see him play. But it sounds like, according to Nick Sorensen, that Isaac Yiadom is going to be most likely be cornerback 3, CB3 after Lenoir Ward, and probably Renardo Green is going to be CB4. Shout out to Chris Rock if you guys remember that movie, CB4 classic comedy. Expect Darrell Luter to make the team over Ambry Thomas. I don't see Ambry Thomas being on the squad anymore. I've been hearing some good things about Darrell Luter in practice, and I just like the way things are going with the secondary. And anything you want to touch on in the secondary really quick before we move on to a different position group?
Sure. I'm going to start with the nickel cornerback. I love how solid we are, and we have different tools to kind of match up with. In seasons past, it seemed like we either had a scalpel or a hammer or a sledgehammer, but never like a mix of the three. I feel like we have that. But as far as like the nickel corner, I still have my concerns there. Yes, we can play really well shallow, but a lot of these slot wide receivers that we've always had problems with that can get in us deep, right, with these deep post patterns or anything like that, I still see that as somewhat of an issue. And I haven't really seen us tested like that in this preseason. So that's absolutely something I'm going to be watching and seeing, because I'm not seeing a slot corner that's going to shut down or neutralize. Let's take, for instance, someone like the Rams. Take their top two wide receivers, who also happen to be fantastic slot corners, and McVay dials them up all game long. So that's something that I'm curious to kind of see.
Yeah, it's definitely gonna be interesting because a lot of what you see in the preseason, it's only preseason at the end of the day. It's not a real game. So that's obviously the true test does come in the regular season. Shout out to Rod Cali 24/7. What's up, bro? How you doing? Let everybody know the name of the YouTube channel that you come on. I know you go on with Gina, Reppin' the Bay podcast, and I think you guys changed the name of the podcast. I forgot what it's called. If you want to drop the name, let them know to subscribe. That's fine. I'm totally cool with that. Yeah, there was a I made a reference to C4 with Chris Rock and Rod dropped the name of the song that was in the movie. I'm not gonna repeat that, but it is funny. It definitely made me laugh. There was a comment, maybe there was a comment that I wanted to pull up that I may have missed another shout out. Oh, East Coast Red and Gold podcast. Shout out to Jess. Go Niners. I had the pleasure of sitting with her last year in the Gold Miners section at Levi Stadium. I believe they no longer had that section anymore, but we had fun hanging out with various content creators and just various Niner fans in general for that New York Giants game that the Niners won the home opener. That was a lot of fun. Somebody mentioned Isaac Garendo in the chat, and I'll say this right here really quick. Before I jump into Isaac Garendo, the rookie class, you mentioned something about being from Tennessee. Quick question, because I usually drop my foodie questions early on and I forgot it. So I do want to jump into that really, really quick before we talk about the running backs. You live in Tennessee. Like, how is the food better in Tennessee or better in Cali? And then I got a question about pizza right after that. But so just make it quick about Tennessee food, the Tennessee food scene, and you can talk and let us know the lowdown, how it goes down.
Was insanely excited when the Army was moving my family to Tennessee because we heard everything about the Deep South cooking, the barbecue. But I do have to say the food is better than in California. Was
okay.
Very surprised.
But is the barbecue way better than out there than the California is, or it's almost the same? You think?
Memphis. Other than that.
Okay. I'll take your word for it. Okay, now I always gotta drop the pizza question. But a long time since I've done it because it's the first time that I've had a first time guest on here. What is your favorite type of pizza? Some people like California style, where it's more of a thicker kind of Papa John's type crust, or New York style thin crust, Chicago deep dish. Like, where are you at when it comes to pizza? And what's your go-to spot to eat pizza? You've been to various states, I take it. Let us know.
Yeah, I think everyone here is going to be surprised, but you haven't lived until you've had a pizza from Connecticut. Go to any pizza parlor shop in Connecticut, and it's going to be the best pizza you've ever had. I didn't, but that's all that's in Connecticut. So if you go to Connecticut to have fun or do anything, all that's there is going to be the pizza.
So is it Sally's in Connecticut or Pepe's? Because I know they're right across the street from each other and they compete with each other, and they don't call it pizza out in Connecticut. They call it a beats. That I do know. I never been there.
I'm not an absolute Connecticut aficionado. I was just very, very surprised because I am so close to Chicago. Had to go to New York because I was a big fan of Macaulay Culkin, especially when he stayed in New York for those couple days during that Home Alone 2. But yeah, Connecticut, there's nothing else in Connecticut besides pizza. And I don't know how, I don't know why, and I don't know what, but they do have the best pizza in Connecticut.
Okay. If you ever come out to the Sac area, you're more than welcome to come over to my place. I do have pizza oven in the backyard, and I've been making pizzas for the past 8 years, and a lot of my pizzas come out better than the restaurants. So yeah, I'm throwing out that invitation. That's to any Niner fan that I know that I'm cool with too.
I'll be there.
Yeah, so somebody mentioned something in the chat that was kind of funny. Oh, it's kind of ironic. Papa J says, trust anything but Papa John's. I always thought Papa John's was a pretty good go-to chain. Not that it's fancy schmancy or anything like that, but I always thought it was a pretty good, consistent go-to chain, and they have great pricing. So I ain't gonna hate too much. I know Rod's about Slim and Huskies. We got Slim and Huskies in Sacramento, half an hour from me. I still have yet to try them. I gotta knock that out, and if I do knock it out, I'll take a picture of it, put it on my Twitter, and I'll tag you on it. How about that? And Kenny says New Jersey has the best pizza in the universe. Nothing goes together better with football than pizza, in my opinion. They go hand in hand, you eat it out of your hand, which is even better. Terry says Papa John's gives some heartburn. Well, hopefully this upcoming season or this game doesn't give us heartburn. And we do have some running backs to talk about. I'm staring at the running back depth chart. We all know who CMC is. CMC is like, the pizza in Connecticut. He's the top dog, right? But then we got some guys backing him up. We got Jordan Mason, who's having himself a nice camp. Didn't see too much of him in the preseason. Obviously, we got that one guy, Cody Schrader, undrafted rookie. Isaac Garendo from this draft class I want to speak up on. I like the way this draft class is shaping out. I know it's early. Isaac Garendo finally made it back to practice, and Elijah Mitchell is still kind of in the mix. Yeah, running backs is interesting. Who am I missing? Matt Breida. We brought Matt Breida back. Totally forgot about that. But we got some running backs in the mix, man. What do you think about our backfield?
I think it's CMC, Jordan Mason, and then everybody else. If I'm being honest with you, so slap who you want to back there. whatever horse chat wants to pick behind those two guys, I'm not going to argue with you. I'm not going to really care, but I'm really thinking this is your number one, number two horses are CMC, and then whatever carries are left really should be divvied up to Jordan Mason. But that's kind of where I'm at with it. I think these other guys can have a couple nice breakout runs or moments. But again, my fallback is going to be case in point to this. No block, no rock. Isaac Rendo, Cody Schrader, right? Elijah Mitchell. I just don't see them out blocking Jordan Mason and Christian McCaffrey in the backfield. And I always felt like that was one thing that if I were to ask 49ers fans, what are some amazing things that you think Christian McCaffrey can do? And they're going to say his vision, his balance, running, twisting, his ability to catch, receive. But it's actually his ability to really just pick up blocks or in the backfield. I just thought was absolutely sensational. Like, it was very rare for him to just have a really bad blown backfield assignment. And I'm kind of seeing the same thing with Jordan Mason, especially when he had to be a backfield blocker when he was playing for Georgia Tech against, he playing behind one of the worst offensive lines in FBS and in college. So, and he's more able-bodied physically and a willing blocker. So, again, going back with the no block, no rock kind of statement with that one there.
All right, you sure like saying that. So we'll see if the Shanahan sticks to it. Isaac Rendo, he's almost like Pearsall, right? Because they've been out for the majority of camp, and Pearsall was supposed to come back this week, but the shoulder just hasn't healed up just yet. Isaac Rendo stepped on the practice field yesterday, and I heard a lot of good things from a lot of people that he was looking really, really good. Some were saying that he looked almost just as explosive as Jordan Mason did. Now Jordan Mason's been in the system longer, and pretty much Jordan Mason has a number 2 running back position locked up. I don't think anybody's going to dispute that or argue that, but wouldn't shock me at all if Isaac Rendo makes the team. I definitely, the 49ers, we do draft a lot of, skill players, but even when we do draft skill players, more so than linemen, we rarely ever draft a height, weight, speed guy. It's more like a skill type of guy, guys who have great skills, but not necessarily height, weight, and speed where we want to coach him up. And Isaac Rendo is really, really raw coming out of college. I'm surprised I heard some pretty damn good reviews out of him in his first pad of practices, because I just thought he'd be a lot more greener, even though I've been excited about him. I was hoping they could coach him up, but he's been gone all this time due to injury. But it's going to be very interesting. Chris Schultz says Isaac Rendo will supplant Jordan Mason by year's end. Here's an interesting fact about Jordan Mason. Last year, a lot of Niner fans were dying for him to get on the field, and he revealed that he wasn't. A big reason why he wasn't getting on the field was that him and Bobby Turner weren't seeing eye to eye. Bobby Turner wanted things out of Jordan Mason, and Jordan Mason wasn't showing it for Bobby Turner, and he manned up and he admitted it. Mm-hmm. And and then he also went out of his way. He had some issues with his hands. Apparently, he went out of his way to spend $3,000 on a jugs machine. Those catching machines. Mm-hmm. Throw the footballs right at you. So, shout out to Jordan Mason. He's always been an explosive runner, but he just, for whatever reason, he wasn't able to get on the field, and we kind of know why now, but it's going to be interesting to see him on the field now. Elijah Mitchell, I don't know. He had a great rookie year, and ever since then, it hasn't been the same. Somebody said something about in the chat, and it's something about girls and bashed out about girls. Very off topic, but I just thought it cracked me up. He said, "The girls are beautiful. Just ask Bash." I'm not sure where you're referring to. I kind of missed what you guys are talking about. If you want to clarify, go right ahead. Please let us know. That's funny though. But yeah, I mean, I see a lot of good things coming out of this running back core in general. Before the preseason even started, Kyle Juszczyk pretty much said this is the deepest running back room he's seen. I just see a lot of great depth on this team, more so than in years past. Let's transition over to the defensive line, because this is where the depth gets very, very shaky. Mm-hmm. And we know we got Bosa, we got what's his name? Leonard Floyd in the mix. Drake Jackson gets hurt; he's out for the season. The defensive end's very, very thin. Robert Beal Jr. wasn't showing much in the preseason for me so far, even though he ran a little fast 40 at the combine and he put on some muscle this year. Been looking shaky. Ty McGill made a really, really nice play on the defensive tackles last week and forced a fumble. I still want to see what Malik Collins, Jordan Elliott can do. Javon Hargrave supposedly is primed up for a great season, but and we lost our guy, my guy Clea Davis. But let me know what you think about the defensive ends and D tackles, the D line in general.
So I think with Leonard Floyd, I think we're going to be a little bit more consistent on the outside. He's a guy who's going to be able to line up and be there for every single number of games. He's going to be better than a lot of other teams' right tackles outside of a handful. My biggest concern is that you're looking at this defensive line and they're a little long in the tooth. I'm going to go ahead and say this. I'm going to stand behind this defensive line for the first 13 to 15 weeks of the season. But there comes a certain time to where attrition starts to kick in. And we saw that a little bit last year, right? Javon Hargrave, he had that injury with his thumb, with his hand, was planning hand, come into the playoffs. And what I'm worried about is that this defensive line is going to be a little gassed when it comes down to playoff time, is really kind of my big concern. We wouldn't be surprised if we're doing really well and everyone's going to blow past this comment that I'm making right now before our last preseason game, and no one's going to think about this a week or two before we go into the playoffs. But you look at the teams that gashed us. They're extremely young, extremely fast, and extremely physical. And we're talking about the Packers and the Lions. Now we're just that much older on that defensive front for sure. So I think we're going to do great, but I think we're going to be a little bit slower when it comes down later.
Yeah, it's going to be really, really interesting. It's very disheartening to see you guys go down. It just sucks. Chris Schultz says he's worried about our tackles against the run. Didn't look too good. I don't know how much Malik Collins has actually played. As far as run stoppers, I heard a lot of great things about Evan Anderson, who's a UDFA run stopper, who I thought was going to look really, really good. He's about 6'1", 330 pounds, and he didn't do too well, or the guys didn't do too well in general in terms of stopping the run. But yeah, I mean, expect us to pick up some guys when the roster cutdowns come up. Expect us to pick up some guys on the D line and possibly some offensive linemen, and go ahead and say what you want to say.
I do want to say this. So I think that our for our defensive front, so our front four on the D line, I think that we're going to have a uptick for our ability to stop the run initially, right? So in the regular season, the problem is that it's not a big enough of an uptick, like where we really need to see that growth. We're going to be better, but it's not where it needs to be. I don't know if that made sense.
I got it. Make it make sense. Where is Terry Dome at? Terry Dome's all over the place in chat. Say, cool the gang. We're on a award tour. I know that Tribe Called Quest song is. I'm not sure why he brought it up though. I'm a little lost, but hey, it doesn't hurt to drop a Tribe Called Quest line every now and then. Funny, Katie's cracking me up in the chat. Go way off topic, but I'm with you on that, brother. Yeah, let's. Speaking of depth, though, the linebacker core is looking really, really nice. I mean, I love Dre Greenlaw. We all know what happened to Super Bowl. I didn't want to get there, but my main worry was this upcoming season. When's he coming back? How is it going to look? Are we going to draft some linebackers? What are we going to do? Panic. But the depth on the linebacker side of things is looking exceptionally well. I mean, geez, man, Jalen Graham had himself a really, really nice game. Tatum Bethune was leading the damn team in tackles the past two games. I believe he racked up like 18 tackles in 2 preseason games so far. Curtis Robinson, who's a special teamer who I never cared for, has been balling. I mean, Devondre Campbell in the mix. I don't know where he's going to be. Maybe they'll keep him around for veteran depth in the meantime. Guys like DFF, I don't know if he's going to be around, but Fred Warner's Fred Warner. But what do you think about this linebacking core so far?
I'm a little bit more down on it than what I hate to do this, but the media has been, and that's just either me attending these preseason games or just what I've been seeing with my eyeballs on tape. Huge, tremendous. If anyone wants to roll back the years and the tape on me, what I've been saying about D Winters, I was big on this guy before he even declared for the NFL draft. I would have to point out examples of it. I'd have to watch like tape with somebody if they ever disagreed with me, but we'd have to watch tape. But he really just gets walled off, or he takes some really bad sloppy angles. He's just so hit or miss with things. I think the biggest thing is that we need guys who have exceptional coverage skills. I think that Fred Warner is the third best coverage linebacker in the NFL as far as pass defense goes. The two best pass defensive linebackers in the NFL happen to play for the New York Jets, but there's a steep drop off from Fred Warner even to Greenlaw or anybody else, and we're going to really miss a lot of Greenlaw's activity because he created a lot of chaos. He was able to stack and shed sometimes a couple of guys. I don't see that really from these guys. Again, sure, if we want to judge them against fifth, sixth, string guys, they're doing okay. But I saw a lot of times where these guys struggled and got slammed. And when this team gets into a world of shock, I don't know what to say, except I'm sorry that you were listening to local and big media, but these guys are doing good, but they should be doing good against the level of competition that they're playing against.
And one more linebacker I forgot to drop was D Winters, because I was pushing for him. I was pushing for D Winters and Jalen Graham to get playing time last year, especially in games that we had significant leads in, and they weren't prepped enough, in my opinion. And we had guys like Oren Burks looking like garbage in the Super Bowl. I can't think of a better way to put that, a nicer way to put that, that is. But at least the linebackers this year are, in my opinion, a lot of them, even guys, like I mentioned, Curtis Robinson was a no-name. Just a lot of those guys look improved. And I'm the rookie Tatum Bethune. So I know 49er Media, shout out to you, bro, over in Arizona, big time Niner fan, big time fan of DFF. He said 49ers love DFF. Says what's up, Bashar and Gavin. It's gonna be interesting to see where DFF ends up. Really is. This is the deep. No knock on him too much, but this is Johnny Holland and company. We also have KJ Wright in the mix to help out with the linebackers too, and coaching is looking good. I do want to move a transition to over offensive line really quick, unless you have something else you want to add about linebackers.
Yes, it really helps the linebackers when we have a lot of weight and nose tackles up front, and that is something that we do not have. So I don't want to seem like I'm just knocking our linebackers, but again, we're losing a little bit of girth up front, and it's going to make it a little bit harder unless you're Fred Warner to really take advantage of everything.
That's why now Jordan Elliott and Malik Collins aren't the biggest of D tackles, but I've heard a lot of good things about them. Friend of mine's watched a lot of Cleveland Browns football. Shout out to John V. He lives in the state of Ohio. He's been reminding me that Jordan Elliott is definitely good against the run. So hopefully he's good against the run for the 49ers. Kevin Givens always been around. He's not the biggest guy, but Evan Anderson's a big dude. I've always wanted a big guy on our D line. He's 330 pounds. So hopefully he's good enough to make the squad, because it's just nice to have that one huge big dude in the middle just to plug up holes. So we'll see where that goes. And let's talk about the offensive line, man. Everybody's obviously ranting and raving about Dominic Pooney. Dominic Pooney is pretty much looking like a first rounder. I mean, you look at him, you watch him play, and if I didn't tell you what round he was drafted in, you'd say first rounder. And we also drafted another offensive lineman out of USC, Kingston. And I saw Kingston the other day. I was like, he's been doing pretty good in the preseason so far. He's doing better than I'm expecting. And build-wise, he doesn't look like your typical 49er guard. He looks like he's got some huskiness to him, and he's kind of looks like he's built more of a higher round draft pick. But what do you think about the O-line in general? You can just talk. You can bring up Trent Williams if you want to. Yeah.
I'm really dissatisfied with the O-line. I really like what I'm seeing from Pooney. Again, going to be another wet blanket. But how many stunts and twists and everything else are you really seeing from in preseason? Pooney's going to need another year. I know people don't like hearing it, but he's not going to come out firing on all cylinders like a Brock Purdy or like a Nick Bosa on there. It's just it's a man's game when you're playing in the trenches. Like, you don't start off big and strong and just nasty and overpowering everybody. I haven't seen really an offensive line ever really do that. Not even Trent Williams. Joe Staley took a couple years of seasoning. It's just when you're a guard, you're going to have to go up against some nasty defensive tackles. Again, he's going to get his stripes when he goes up against Quinn Williams. So that's going to be his test number one right there. But yeah, I'm glad that we got Pooney. My biggest thing is that we should have been drafting last couple seasons. Ever since Alex Mack, we knew we only had him for like a year. We should have been drafting a center. This offense really, really revolves around just an all-around amazing center, someone who can pull, stack, shed, get out quick, just nasty. And we haven't done that. And if you go by PFF, it looks like our center is average or above average. But if you watch the tape, it's because guys like Purdy and Garoppolo are getting the ball out quickly. So I just, again, Purdy's going to be running for his life. I'm just going to put it that way. Pooney hasn't seen everything. He's not seasoned enough. If there's some basic vanilla stuff out of 50, 60 snaps, he'll be all right. But when he's going up against the cream of the crop and they're going for it and they're going to try and confuse him and rattle him, they're going to try and really get him, and then they're going to have some linebackers going after him, or sliding through. It's a different game. I mean, that's all it is. It's no knock on him. I think he looks remarkable for where he is, but the 49ers really should have been drafting replacement parts for our right tackle and our center for many years, and this could be the season where it kind of bites them.
Yeah, I hate to sound like a broken record. I was pounding the floor and banging on my desk the year that we drafted Cameron Latu and Jake Moody, and I was like, why aren't we drafting DeJuan Jones, who the guy who people were telling me I was stupid on Twitter because I wanted him in our draft, and they said, you're dumb. He's never going to be available when we draft. Well, lo and behold, he was available 3 times when we drafted in round 3, and we didn't get him, and he's been a stud for the Cleveland Browns ever since. And when he did get drafted, people still told me I was stupid because he doesn't fit Kyle Shanahan's scheme, and he's too fat, and he's too slow, and blah, 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 blah. Guess what? The guy's a mauler. He's a stud. We would love to have him on this team over freaking McKivitz. I can care less if McKivitz is a scheme fit for this team. You throw him in, you throw DeJuan Jones on our squad, he'll look way more like a scheme fit compared to freaking McKivitz. And people this year are like, oh, well, we didn't draft a tackle because the 49ers have a lot of hope in McKivitz and they see a lot of upside in him. And like, it's just ridiculous. And I had put something on my community tab just a few days ago because I just got so fed up. I'm so tired of seeing McKivitz out there as a starter. I typed something. I said, I'm shocked that the 49ers see all this upside with McKivitz to the point where they basically gift wrapped him the job and they bring in absolutely nobody to challenge him. That would be a possible upgrade. And it's just like, and I know, shout out to Kenny 49ers. Kenny said the Niners love people with experience, especially in our system. But I mean, look at Dominic Pooney. In my opinion, he has no experience in our system yet. To me, talent-wise, he looks way better than McKivitz, even though he's playing a different position. But maybe McKivitz finally plays better ball this year with a better right guard next to him. I know you said you're worried about Dominic Pooney going up against some studs, possibly like Chris Jones and other dudes. But I just think that we did face studs in the past. And we had Burford. Freaking playing the phantom, feeling like, oh, I got Chris Jones right in front of me. Let me go double team whoever Brendel's going up against, and let Chris Jones go right through. Or we've seen, even when Burford does go up against people, it's not all that pretty either. So I definitely see this as an upgrade over Burford as far as Pooney being in the lineup. Chris Schultz says, don't sleep on Kingston after this year. So Nugent, the undrafted free agent, I haven't focused on him too much. If anyone in the chat's been focusing on him, I heard he got some good PFF grades. I don't know if he's ready to challenge Brendel. He probably not. For him to beat out Brendel, I would have had to have heard like amazing things coming out of camp, and I haven't heard it. And Brendel, he's a technical type of guy, but again, he is undersized. We know that. He's the guy who's going to get pushed back against those studs. And it does raise some area for concern. I totally get that. And hopefully Banks gets his pinky right, and hopefully Trent Williams signs. The word on the street is Trent Williams and the 49ers have some agreement that, hey, you don't need preseason. Hey, you don't need training camp. We'll sign you right before the season and everything will be A-okay. So supposedly that's the rumor going around, and supposedly we're going to sign him. So he'll get his guaranteed money and all will be happy in 49er land. I just hope that he's not super rusty and doesn't look like ass because he missed all that time. Really, really quick, I want to say what's up to On Base Soil Pat. Says, I think it remains to be seen, but I like how Pooney's looked. I love what I've seen from Pooney so far, but go ahead, Gammon.
Yeah, I think everyone's how if you said, you don't like how Puni's looked, then I'd be like, I don't know what you'd expect from a rookie. But again, we're talking about this blocking scheme that Shanahan has. This isn't like a simple, Jim Harbaugh, just power gap. You know what I mean? Just get your guy kind of like scheme. Like we've seen Puni pull from the right guard, having to make a block against Chase Young. He's way too, his shoulder levels, pad levels way too high, where he should have just cracked the crap out of him, and he didn't. But it's things that it's the little things. It's you can be a 90% good player, but it's the 10% that makes you go from average to Pro Bowl. I don't know what else to say, but sometimes like knowledge is gained and knowledge is learned. And I really wish that the 49ers would have invested a little bit more around the offensive line, and we would be a couple years ahead, and maybe Chris Jones wouldn't have killed us 2 different Super Bowls. That's all I can say.
He did. It's almost to the point where
it's not okay. Terradome, it's not always high. I'm just saying certain plays, he gets that was one play in general. Everything has to be taken play by play in happenstance. If I say his pad level is always high, obviously that's an absolute red herring kind of comment. But no, I mean, there's just when he's pulling, right, because he's still getting used to it, still figuring out, diagnosing the play, who's got to take, who's got to do, he's still thinking, and you can kind of see that happening. So his pad level on one play was a little too high. Certain things, right? You see a lot of great things from him. I'm just saying, when they start throwing more complicated stuff at him, it's gonna be harder.
I got you. So we're gonna wrap things up pretty soon. I did want to touch on it's gonna be really, really short that we touch on this group, but I just want to touch on them really quick. At the end of the day, it's a foregone conclusion. We all know Purdy's the man. For those who aren't sold on him yet, and I'd literally gotten to dumb argument. I mean, I supported Trey Lance. I had high hopes for the guy, but once I saw Purdy come back from the injury and look like a stud in week 1, I closed the book on Trey Lance. We traded the guy, and I was like, okay, cool. Looks like we made the right decision. We're rolling with Purdy, and Purdy's going to be the guy. And we were right. He was the guy. But there are some dumb Niner fans who said that he choked the Super Bowl and he lost us the Super Bowl. And if Trey Lance played, we would have won. Or if Trey Lance was the quarterback, we would have been undefeated. I literally read stuff like this on social media, which is freaking ridiculous. But I don't ever really want to bring that name up because it's pointless. But the quarterback room is, hey, I don't want to ever see Purdy be in a situation where we see Purdy go down. But Brandon Allen looks like a better quarterback than he did last year. Josh Dobbs is in the mix now. It looks like an upgrade from what the whole Sam Darnold situation that we had going on last year. And really quick, before you get to the QBs, shout out to No Border Sports. Says, what's up, everyone? Good to see you, brother. And Terradome says they will always love Trey Lance like a Whitney Houston. Yeah. They have this mad affection for him. I don't know where it comes from. I mean, once the player's gone on this team, I move on, and assuming the guy we have is better, hoping the guy we have is better, and I move on, and that's the case. Obviously the case. But go ahead, touch on the quarterbacks, and we're going to call it a night after this.
Yeah, that was actually one of my questions that I had for a few columnists who cover the 49ers. And one of my questions was, hey, look, because we're already seeing a rash of injuries, and I was kind of worried that this season could kind of start looking like the 2020 season, where we basically had an insane amount of injuries, and I don't want to put that kind of juju on our team. But one of my first questions was, if we can't protect Brock Purdy up front, how do our backup quarterbacks look? Which one do you think can take us the furthest, and how far can we go? I think that these guys look okay, but again, I really like that Purdy beefed up. I think he's even getting the ball out of his hands quick. And I'm just going to say the quarterback room, I think Purdy he knows how to protect himself once the bullets start flying. So I'm just going to go on a positive note.
And this is coming from Grant Cohn. I rarely ever quote the guy, but he was nice enough to admit that there is better touch on Purdy's deep ball this year. He mentioned some other aspect about his deep ball. Forgot what exactly what it was, but he wasn't negative for a change about Purdy, and that's something really, really good about him. I don't know if you caught that as well.
Yeah, well, what I really been going with as far as the Purdy conversation goes is I've been kind of following Terradome, because he's actually been one of his most staunch
From day one, Pterodame's been on it.
Oh yeah, and let me tell you, there's a lot of us, myself included, were ripping him left and right, cackling, laughing to him even on screen. I think me and Eric Crocker, kind of laughed in his face a little bit, but he's been absolutely 100% lock, stock, and barrel. So if Pteradome's giving him the thumbs up, then that's honestly 100% where I'm at. I'm gonna stand on whatever side of the line Big T is on. That's for sure.
Tanner Mordecai, I have this feeling the 49ers, I don't know if they trade Brandon Allen, or I definitely don't think they'll trade Dobbs. I see Dobbs as number 2. I'm with you. As much as I like what I see from Brandon Allen this preseason, I definitely see Dobbs sticking around. I mean, when he was that move that he did when he outran the defensive lineman to the left side of the field, and I thought that was really, really nice. Okay, he's probably just going to get 2 or 3 yards tops, and that's about it. But which is great. It looks good. He outran the defense. This fool turns on the Jets and gets a first down on that play. I was like, damn, he got a first down on that play? He ran 10 straight yards on that play. That was really, really nice. And I'm not the biggest fan of hyping up runs that quarterbacks make, but I mean, he made something out of nothing on that play. And he threw a nice one to Jacob Cowing later in the game too, which was cool. See, Pteradome's definitely the CEO of Rockefeller Records. If you don't know, now you know, or if you know, you know, however you want to spin it. I don't know. But I wouldn't be surprised if Shanahan, just finds a way to stash away Mordecai and have him as the QB3 on this roster. Just want to say shout out to everybody up in the chat. You guys have been awesome. I announced the show at the last minute. We orchestrated the show. I got Gavin to come on kind of at the last minute too. So shout out to everybody in the chat. You guys were awesome. Appreciate you guys. We have a game against the Raiders tomorrow. Oh, it'll be fun. Knock on wood. Just say your prayers, no injuries, and we get it. We sign Ayuk, we sign Williams, and Pearsall finds a way to get healthy, and everything's a-okay in 49er land. Any final thoughts you have to say? And really quick, great to have Gavin on here. If you're not following him on Twitter, go ahead and hit up his Twitter account. I put the description I put the link in the description box of this video. The floor is yours before we wrap it up.
Yeah, Brandon Ayuk's going to be signed by the 49ers. Look, there's only so many cards in a deck, right? 52 cards, maybe a couple more if you put in the Joker cards. If you're talking about a guy like Antonio Brown, both sides, and let's say 3 sides, right? So other teams, Brandon Ayuk and the 49ers, they've called each other's bluff. That's the reason why we've been so close within the couple times. There's also been the most openly leaked, and that's why the 49ers have been upset that the actual accurate information has been getting leaked. Teams are running out of they don't have the assets anymore right now. They're all setting up their rosters. Both sides can't bluff each other anymore. They've already played chicken with each other. The 49ers did it once. Brandon Ayuk did it once. They both obviously are going to want to play. They want this thing to work out. 49ers know what they have to do. As great as Cowing and Conley have been, it's nowhere near what Brandon Ayuk can do. Those guys are 4th or 5th depth roster guys on your chart for a reason. You don't have those guys going against your number 1 running back. So it's a matter of time. I was saying today that I got it from my sources that Brandon Ayuk deal has already been done. And the only reason why I came out and did that is because 3 is the lucky charm, and also too, the writing's on the wall. We're gonna re-sign him. We're gonna re-sign Trent Williams. It's just everybody's ran out of options, and now we're running really thin on time. It's just a matter of time.
Hey, you heard it. His sources. Just kidding. Yeah. So hey, it's good to hear. I mean, I know some people that may know somebody in the organization, but I told myself, well, I'm not going to bug and ask them, what did you hear? What did you hear? I'm just going to let it play out, and I'm going to find out eventually. I'm going to find out when all the rest of the Niner Empire finds out. And this is the one thing in terms of contract signing. Like, I've heard a million different rumors every day. It's like when the stock market goes up and down like crazy every single day. That's how it is with this Ayuk stuff. So I just want to wake up one day and have a pop up on my phone that we signed them and then call it a day. And for the record, I checked my Twitter. I was checking my Twitter feed during the stream. I didn't see anything new.
Yeah, here's the thing. We literally were on the verge of signing him those last couple times. It's just now, like I said, it's the last couple meters of this 400-meter race. There's no more room for any party to go. I mean, because if the 49ers then they get, because they already looked at the Steelers and they said, okay, we're going to accept that deal. And then all of a sudden they're like, no, never mind. We're going to go back and we're going to go back to Brandon Ayuk. Now, if Brandon Ayuk, then they go like, oh, now it's too much. And they go back to the Steelers. The Steelers are going to be like, well, you know how we're going to give you a second and a third? Well, now we're going to give you a second and a fifth. You know what I mean? Like,
I don't want to trade with the stingy Steelers.
But that's what I'm saying is like the Steelers are now going to be like, okay, now, you know, when we gave you gold and you said you agreed to it, and then you took back, right? Now you blinked. Now it's like, okay, now you realize that you really can't afford them fiscally because you've got your two cornerbacks that to re-sign and your quarterback at the end of the offseason. Everyone's only talking about Brock Purdy. The Steelers aren't stupid. They're going to be like, no, we'll just give you a second and a fifth instead of a second and a third, and, you know, suck eggs, and then we'll pay for it, or else you guys are going to have to try and make a desperate midseason trade if he's not playing. So again, they're all the sides are running out of options. People are going to start taking back and valuing their own assets. It is what it is at this point in time. If it don't make sense, it don't make dollars.
There you go. Any final words before we wrap this up?
Yes. Everybody keep your chin up. Everything that I heard, again, my dad was kind of helping out with a lot of broadcasting ever since I was younger. And I've said this a million times. He doesn't really like sports, but everything that I'm hearing, it's pretty much a done deal. I think that they're just, it's the minutia. They're working on 1 year of the contract. That's it. If you're exhausted and over it, don't worry. It's gonna happen. But the 49ers and Brandon Ayuk, they both, and Brandon Ayuk is a California boy, right? I no longer live in California, but I still miss and love California with all my heart. I haven't picked their food over Tennessee. Brandon Ayuk he wants to eat and live there too. That's all I got. He
played his junior college ball literally 12 minutes away from where I live over at Sierra College, where the 49ers, for all 5 Super Bowls, held their training camps. So, yeah, let's get it done. Thank you to everybody in the chat. Go Niners. Thank you, Gavin. Been awesome having you on. I look forward to having some future guests on the channel that I've never had on before. If anybody ever wants to hit me up on social media, you can add me on Instagram, 49er Minded. You can add me on my 49er Minded Facebook group. You can go ahead and hit me up on Twitter at 49er Minded on Twitter. I'm easy to find. Just send me a DM and we'll work things out if you have any questions about whatever. And really, really quick, No Border Sports says BA has the leverage right now. 49ers easy to come to terms with it. I got you. So thank you, everybody. It's going to be fun. Hopefully we just have fun watching the game tomorrow. We have a great kickoff on week 1 of the NFL season against the New York Jets, against Aaron Rodgers, who I cannot stand. And with that said, everybody, keep repping those 49ers and stay 49er minded.
Bang, bang. Peace. Let's go.
There's that enthusiasm. Bang, bang, night again. Peace.
Come on, 49er Faithful, let's get it. Because it's 49er mind. We gotta do this one time for the Empire. It's 49er mind. It's 49er mind. We gotta get that brick by brick real quick. 49er mind. Yeah. Yo, we can't listen to them haters, man. 49er mind. We from the Bay. 49er mind. We them San Francisco 49ers. 49er mind. We got that red and gold blood inside us. 49er mind.